Right, guys, this is going to be one of the last videos. I'm probably going to make one more, but this is going to be it. No crying, okay? Mummy. And I'm just going to walk through logical fallacies. And I'm really going to walk through it in such a way that makes finishing that final assignment pretty dang easy. I'm going to do the first 10 problems or so. And I really do want you to read through the piece on logic, on fallacies. This was one of the best pieces out there that I've seen. But it's very important to understand some of the things I went over last time. These fallacies, they're really not logic. If you know logic, it's an extremely mathematical form of thinking, and it comes out to validity or invalidity. It's either is or it isn't. 2 plus 2 is 4. Math is essentially logic, and it's a deductive form of reasoning. What these are just straight up reasoning. They aren't really logic, but these are built into forms of argument that you're going to see all over the place. And they're not necessarily inherently wrong. We do these automatically. This was the stuff I went over before. We do this automatically again and again, and we can actually come up with true, reliable ideas using what are known as logical fallacies. So I want you to know that. So any argument could be logically invalid, but empirically reliable. Okay, I hate the word true. You should know that. I like the word reliable. So something could be reliable even if it's built on logical fallacies. But I want you to be able to recognize these because they're bad reasoning. So they really are. So whether or not something is reliable is built on the situation itself. You could form a reliable idea or insight or notion about something based on a logical fallacy because you saw it as an example or something else. But I want you to be able to recognize these. So I want to go through that sheet with you. But as I go through it, I really want to point out that you're going to see the logical fallacies show up again and again and again. And they become the heart and soul of just really disgusting ideas, discriminatory notions about various groups. They're at the core of it, or logical fallacies. And they are spread throughout political rhetoric that you hear today. And you're going to see them in the sheet. Okay, so what I'm going to do is walk through the first 10, and I'll let you finish it up on your own. So if you don't want help with these 10, don't just shut it down and say goodbye. I've had enough. Yeah, I don't need those people either. So if you want help with the first 10, let me show you how it works. It's very important to see how you can have more than one logical fallacy working at a time. These don't fit nice and neatly in one space and they don't move. They usually occupies a few spaces. Let me go through that. And this is the sheet. You can fill it out as you can and send it in to me this by the end of the week. And here are so I say directions. Identify one or more logical fallacy for each little argument. So these are little arguments. What I really hope you can do with this is recognize it in longer arguments. There may be more than one right answer, and that's what I'm going to say is that there usually is. There usually are because that's how life works. That's just, yeah, so that's just the way it goes. Warning, many of these statements are common, in other words, people are believing them, and they're racist, sexist, homophobic, or just messed up. And so very important. So when I tell you that this is part of logical fallacies are actually part of common thinking, it doesn't mean that if you identify a logical fallacy, it's automatically racist, homophobic, or whatever. But be aware that racist, homophobic, and that type of thinking relies heavily on this kind of thinking. Because logical fallacies trigger certain reactions in us, emotional reactions and things like that, that we will either side with or push away. And so a lot of folks use them to promote really garbage thinking. Okay, so in the end, this kind of garbage thinking is stupid. You can do better. Okay, let's go through it. Swimming pools lead to healthy lifestyles. Well, that's not too controversial, but you know what? It's based on a logical fallacy. It's based on the slippery slope, but it's not a really good example of a slippery slope. In other words, a swimming pool will lead to all these great things. Well, maybe. So it's kind of slippery slope, but it's really closer to a hasty generalization. Okay, that's what it is. You have to use the swimming pool to set up a healthy lifestyle. I think, honestly, B is the best one. But there is also a significant element of C in there. Correlation. So a hasty generalization is when you run with it too fast. Correlation equals cause and effect is you assume A, therefore B must be the case. And you can't really say it's cause and effect. A and B showed up, but it doesn't mean A caused B. So the swimming pool will not necessarily cause a healthy lifestyle. So those three are there, but I think B works the best. It's not an either-or fallacy or a red herring distraction or a straw man. So nor is it moral equivalence. I'm not saying these things are the same. So no matter. So let's go to the next one. Chinese students tend to do better in math because the Chinese are good with numbers. And by the way, I know that's a common notion that many people in the U.S., especially in the West, have. It's essentially racist because it makes an assumption about folks from China that doesn't hold up. Okay, so, but it's very common. So I said I think C and E work best. In other words, it's correlation equals cause and effect. This individual is Chinese, therefore that's why he or she is doing well in math. Nah, maybe he or she is Chinese and is doing well in math, but it doesn't click that they are cause and effect relationship. Okay, I don't like that answer as much as I like E, the genetic fallacy. Somebody came from China, therefore they brought with them magnificent math skills. That's genetic fallacy. That's where I think that one comes from. So I think E is best, but C, yeah, it's got that element in it. Okay, I came down with the flu the morning after getting the shot. So the shot either caused it or does nothing to prevent the flu. And by the way, that is an extremely common notion. It's not true. Okay, so you can get the flu shot, and don't worry, you're not going to get the flu from the flu shot. You can get some kind of, you could possibly, very rare case, have an allergic reaction, but you didn't get the flu from it. That is probably C and K. Correlation equals cause and effect fallacy. You assumed I got the shot and that you developed the flu, therefore it's a cause and effect. It's a correlation. Okay, you assumed a cause and effect relationship. K is the other elements that there, arguing from analogy. That's the one I like best. Arguing from an analogy is a personal example. And again, I really want to emphasize examples aren't proof. They should demonstrate. You cannot universalize from one person's experience or something you saw, but you know what? We do it all the time. And a lot of times we're actually right, but it's not a great, reliable way to reason. I actually like arguing from analogy for that, but it is built on a correlation equals cause and effect. I think both of them can work. I like K. Okay. Let's go to the next one. My niece was fine as a baby, and then she got the MMR shot. That's the measles, mumps, and rubella shot, and developed autism. Her vulnerable system clearly could not handle the shot, which made her cry and cause so much trouble for the rest of her life. And I want to add one argument to that. That is just like the flu one. That's C and K. But it's also a red herring. So I should add G to this. That's a red herring. In other words, I'm going to walk you down this argument over here and distract you with this argument over here that she got sick, and I'm using that argument to trigger sympathy in you for her. This poor young girl is getting so sick, and that dreaded MMR shot made her cry and everything else. That, I think, is a red herring, because red herring arguments, distractions, are usually built around triggering an emotional response to get the listener or the reader involved in the whatever is being sold, through a sympathetic story or a story that will trigger anger or something like that. So I actually do think it's a cause and effect, correlation equals cause and effect fallacy, but I really do think, because of the manipulation of the sympathy, that it's probably better as a red herring. So, but you know what, you can disagree, but you should see all the elements in there. Number 5, I bought a Smurf voodoo doll. I did this. To the World Series. No, I didn't go to the World Series. In 2012, but I wish I had. And tore its head off. Oh, I would have done that. And the Giants ended up winning. Yay! Okay, sorry. Had to do that. That's probably C. Okay. Correlation equals cause and effect fallacy. That, in other words, I did this, therefore that happened. That's where superstitions come from. And everybody's got superstitions. We know this because if you watch a football game or a baseball game, you know that you have your superstitions, and know that these are wired into you. These aren't what stupid people do. These are, unfortunately, part of the human brain. But they're an unreliable form of thinking. Okay, it doesn't mean your conclusions are automatically false. Far from it. They could be very reliable. But that is wired into your brain. So go out and get yourself a Smurf voodoo doll. See how it works. Okay. Number 6. I could see the automotive class was filled mostly with women, so I knew it was going to be a waste of my time. Okay, clearly that's a sexist argument. It couldn't be dumber. But you know what? People think like that, and they're really stupid. So B, it's a hasty generalization that women aren't good at automotive work, so it's going to be a waste of your time. You're not going to. That's a hasty generalization, and that's a sexist argument. Okay, it's also a genetic fallacy. I like genetic fallacy best on this. Okay. You could argue that it's a red herring, but I don't think it is. I do think it's better as a genetic fallacy that women don't know how to work on cars is the argument, and that's a common, stupid argument. They could, so as well as a man can, but it's a more of an interest of men, but it doesn't mean that because women are in the class that they're not going to know. Okay, and then watch this one. So I hope 6 is clear. 7 is the research came out of UCLA's lab for child development, which means it's going to be reliable and factual. That is going to be a hasty generalization, running too fast, but I don't like that as the only. Well, no, I think pardon me, I'm picking the wrong one. It's E, genetic fallacy. In other words, you notice that because it's coming out of this source, it must be good. And now we do this all the time. These people do good work. I know they do a great job. All the movies that Pixar makes are really funny. They always crack me up, so I'm going to go see that. Notice that this is a way that we think, and it can be pretty dang good, but it's ultimately not good thinking. But it can be something we rely on. So watch it when you're doing that in research or when you're doing it as an academic, that you're really relying on a genetic fallacy. Could UCLA produce some garbage? Sure as heck can. But they're probably pretty good, but that argument could be very common and could actually work out well, but it's still based on a fallacy. But again, we do this all the time. Okay, I know President Trump's tax cuts are going to fail because he's a jerk. That's going to be an ad hominem attack. And I know you could say genetic fallacy, but really that's a maybe on the genetic fallacy. I don't really like it, but that's an ad hominem. So attack the person, not the content of the argument. And again, you can argue that Trump is the one who designed it and he doesn't know how to do it, so that could be a reliable insight, or it could be absolute garbage. The fact that you like or dislike the president is not pertinent. That's what ad hominem does. Okay. I think Southerners are slow and maybe a little dumb because they speak so slowly. I put this one in there and I like doing it because honestly, as a Californian, that's a common prejudice. It's really, really common and it's stupid. When Californians try to imitate somebody that's dumb, they actually often take on a Southern accent. And so I like with these fallacies to really go at and make everybody aware that this is something you do. This is frequently goes on. So the Southerner accent is something people imitate to come across as being kind of dim. But that, I'm telling you right now, you ask a Southerner that, and they'll say, yeah, that's common prejudice. That is a genetic fallacy, or excuse me, a hasty generalization. And you could definitely call it a genetic fallacy. Let's go ahead and put it on there, but it's still, that's a stupid one. So make sure you don't fall into it, because that's a California prejudice against Southerners. 10. I actually went up to 12. If we can switch over to eating beans instead of meat, we should be able to stop global warming by 2030. That is based on A and B, slippery slope. In other words, if we can only do this, goes too far. Okay, and it's a hasty generalization. So it's slippery slope, but I like hasty generalization a little bit better, but it has elements of slippery slope. Okay. It's not straw man. It's not moral equivalence. It's not begging the question. So let's go to 11. It was clear he could either ask Bertha to the prom or face a life of loneliness. And mind you, Bertha will give you a fulfilling life, but you know what? That is an either-or fallacy. So that's, if you don't do this, your life is going to be, you're going to end up in a van down by the river. That's the either-or fallacy. And then the last one, and then I'll shut up after this. The Russian hoax shows Democrats are fabricating excuses to impeach Trump. And again, I'm trying to take a lot of common arguments that are out there and show you that they're built on fallacies at the end. I mean, in the end. Or unreliable reasoning. That's BDE. That's a hasty generalization. In other words, because somebody's a Democrat doesn't mean they're automatically doing it this way. The same thing goes when you get personal attacks on somebody because they're Republican. It just doesn't mean much. DE, an ad hominem attack is not, I don't like ad hominem because usually with ad hominem you're attacking a person. Okay? So I think, so it's a little bit better to genetic fallacy. Ad hominem, they both have similar types of reasoning behind them. In other words, I know what jersey you wear, so you're either a jerk or you're magnificent. I think the genetic fallacy is inherently a better one for that one. So, and you see it all the time, and both in the press from either perspective, from either more liberal or conservative perspective, you'll see they will tag the other side, and it follows that they are stupid. Okay, that's more of a genetic fallacy, but it has elements of the ad hominem attack. That's what I'm going to give you guys. So try to get. Oftentimes it's just one, but usually it's 2 or 3. These things go together, and you will understand them quite well if you go through this article. It's not tough, but do give it your effort. And then if you can save it, and you know what I'll do is I will put a box up for you to put it into, an assignment area to put it into. But you can also just email it into me. So you can just save it and then email me the file when you're all done, okay? So you should be able to complete this. You can work on it with other folks. Send it in by the end of the week, okay? If you could, please. Send it in by the end of the week, and it should not be rough at all, but I just want you guys to walk through and see how these work, and I do hope you have a wonderful finals week and have a great Christmas. I will probably make one last video to send you off and give you a big hug. So it's been great. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me this semester, and to Leontine Jeffries for her stepping up and taking care of the class for all that time. She does a magnificent job, so I do really want to recognize her excellent work, and I will be going through and walking through. I should be sending you emails with video evaluations within the coming week of your final essay, okay? I'm going to go through SpeedGrader tonight and tomorrow, and I should have your essays done probably by Wednesday. I'm going to do my best. And I would like to get video evaluations of your grades and send them off to you. So I just want to be clear with folks, I'm going to accept everything Professor Jeffries has done with you, that Dr. Jeffries accomplished with you, and I accept it fully, and that's going to be the about 2/3 of your grade in the end, about 2/3 of it. So that's going to take over most of it, but not all of it. This final essay that came in on economics will be along with this final assignment here from on logical fallacies will be the end of the grade. Okay, so wrap it up, have a good finals week, and then go off and have a great Christmas, and I will be getting evaluations off to you guys as much as I can, as soon as I can. But I appreciate your patience throughout this semester, okay? Take care, you guys.